Okie dokie. Friday again. About to go hit at the driving range, but I had to stop and do the show because there is some unrest in the Great Fruited Plain today. Greg Raffetto, thank you for joining me. The ex-Chippendale and law graduate and former director of a PPO, and therefore very helpful on these healthcare issues. Thanks for joining me on Friday again.
My pleasure, Joey.
Outstanding. Now it's getting really nasty. I don't know if you've been watching some of the stuff on the news, but the administration and the Congress, especially the pro-Obamacare Congress, has been, stoking these the personal rhetoric and the kind of attack rhetoric. By calling the people who are against the plan essentially mob, thugs, alluding to them that way. And no, I will, from the footage I've seen, there has been some shouting down of speakers, and that's of course something the left does all the time. But it's not helping, and anyone who's doing that is obviously not helping. But they're also calling this anger unjustified, and that's what I kind of want to get at. And I knew this would pop up by a major contributor, and lo and behold, in the New York Times today, my favorite Nobel Prize winner, Paul Krugman. Of course, he's an economist, so he feels that he knows, he's got his finger on the pulse of culture and everything else. He essentially is saying that the mob is racist. I like how he opens his column called the Town Hall Mob by saying, in the famous Norman Rockwell painting titled "Freedom of Speech," which depicts the American town hall meeting, the painting, which was done as part of a series illustrating FDR's 4 freedoms, shows a citizen expressing an unpopular opinion. And it's funny that he's mentioning that as kind of hearkening back to an American tradition of being able to speak your mind. It's funny that he mentions the FDR's 4 freedoms, because those are, and I knew there was something wrong with those freedoms because I'd heard something before, and I looked them up. The 4 freedoms that FDR was pushing at the time were freedom of speech, and the first 2 were normal. They were like constitutional freedoms. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and then the 3rd and 4th are freedom from want and freedom from fear. The perfect recipe for socialism and demagoguery. It's like, absolutely, we will eliminate all want and eliminate all fear. That's pretty ambitious.
Certainly is.
It's funny that he uses that as an example, because that's a lot of what Obama's promising. Now, to be fair, that's Bush was promising kind of freedom from fear by saying we're going to declare war on terror. Which is, terror is another word for fear, really. It's like, how are you gonna afford that? Go around and make sure no one fears anything. It's impossible. So anyway, he goes on to say, and I want to get your opinion on this. He says, first he kind of points out that people don't really know the difference. Some of the people didn't seem to know the difference between a government program and a private program, when some people kind of misspeak and say that we're against socialized medicine, but then they get people to raise their hands and say, how many on Medicare? Well, a lot of them raise their hand because a lot of them are 65 or older.
Almost half raised their hand.
Yeah, in this particular example, but that is still not. It's a false choice, right? He's essentially saying, look, they're against Obamacare, which is an expansion of government care in the Medicare tradition. Not that they want to get rid of Medicare, or everyone opts in because it's cheap. It's the cheapest option. Just like anyway, are we going to take the free bus, or are you going to take the bus that's $10 that goes the same distance? You're going to take the free bus, But so he presents the dichotomy there. But he goes from there saying, okay, so it must not be socialized medicine that they're against, therefore it must be who Barack Obama is, and this racial and cultural fear is something that the Republicans have used many times in the past, going back to Nixon, blah, blah, blah. Immediately just jumps to racism and culturalism or whatever by saying that there isn't, it doesn't seem to make sense what they're saying about socialized medicine. It's for a guy in this position to jump to that conclusion, it's beyond insulting. It's I don't know how we can get together with these people from here once you get these kind of accusations flying back and forth. What do you think about and he's not the only one saying this. That's part of their talking points, that Obama and others are trying to shut people down by saying, or getting people to shut up by calling them racists. Essentially, that's one of the tactics, one of the talking points.
Yeah, that's a cheap shot.
Yeah, it's. Do you think? How well do you think that'll do? I mean, I know they're trying to shut people up desperately, and they always fall back to racism if they can't think of anything else. Seems like they're falling on it a little too early.
A little bit, yeah, but it is useful as a tactic insofar as it works.
Man, yeah.
Nobody wants to be called a racist, and we have to understand that there are plenty of white and black and different colored people that don't have insurance.
Yeah. Now let's get into another charge they make, and of course, them falling on the racism is obviously a sign of weakness, but they're also trying to pitch the line that all the protesting is kind of astroturf, in the sense that it's not real grassroots. It's engineered or paid for by large, well-heeled special interests who are essentially ferrying these people in, coaching them, and sending them into the town halls to talk. There's not been much evidence that that's going on, though it's certainly going on probably to some extent. But just the people who are getting up, unless they're pretty good actors. They're people who just gotten access and they raised their hand and somebody called on them. I mean, if it was a real concerted effort to put people out there, I think you'd have to spend quite a bit of money and time, and then eventually the scheme would be outed by someone if there were that many people being sent in with talking points, having been coached, at some seminar.
Correct.
Doesn't seem likely. And even though he's naming some people who are definitely, what he would call an AstroTurf organization, Freedom Works, and Conservatives for Patients' Rights, he doesn't go on in the article to connect those two organizations to putting people into these town hall meetings. So what do we expect? Just to